The Wild West. Few eras in history have inspired more movies, art, and literature in the US. Rugged cowboys, Native Americans, bounty hunters, outlaws, and sheriffs. America's western frontier provided great inspiration for the creative mind. But in truth, the Wild West was quite different than the movies would have us believe. Watch on as I bust 5 myths about the Wild West. Number 1. Bank robberies were common. People think that there was an atmosphere of lawlessness in frontier towns. Bank robberies in particular are a common theme in Western films and novels. But it's totally inaccurate. While thousands of robberies occur every year in the US today, in the Western frontier, 8 bank robberies took place over 40 years in 15 states. Yes, just 8. Number 2. Cowboys wore cowboy hats. J.B. Stetson designed the famous Boss of the Plains hat in 1865. But the original design was different from the cowboy hats you see in Western movies. And actually, cowboys and settlers on America's western frontier were just as likely to wear a bowler hat as a Boss of the Plains. For one thing, they were less likely to fly off as they were riding a horse at speed. Cowboy hats gradually changed their shape and became more and more popular as a symbol of the Wild West. Myth number 3. Saloons were violent and dangerous places. We think of a Western saloon as a bar where people went to get into fights and have shootouts, but that wasn't as common as Hollywood wants us to believe. It was mostly a place to socialize. After a hard day's work, cowboys met up in a saloon for a cold drink. So basically, they weren't that different from bars today. And while we're on the subject, let's talk about the doors. While we think of them as swinging loose in the wind, in reality, most saloons had normal doors. Think about it, the Western frontier was dusty, and bar owners liked to keep their establishments clean. Myth number 4. Cowboys were white. Movies about the Wild West tend to have one thing in common: the cowboys are white. This is not historically accurate. While estimations vary, sources say that anything between a quarter and a third were black, another 20 to 25% were Hispanic, and a good few more were Native American. This means that though there were plenty of white cowboys, they weren't the majority. And finally, myth number 5, there were guns aplenty. If Hollywood is to be believed, then every man, woman and child in frontier towns had their own personal revolver. In reality, gun control laws may have even been stricter then than they are now, especially in the West. As towns formed and communities grew, the need for and tolerance of handguns started to fall. Carrying guns became strictly prohibited in many places. And that was 5 myths busted.